bit of an easier week, Nixie, after a week?
It's a little bit of a longer week, yeah. We got a couple of days this week to sharpen the saw a bit more and prepare ourselves for what's going to be a pretty tough one.
Do you feel, I know you're looking ahead, but is it nice to get a bit of vindication and validation that what you're doing is right when you win against a good team?
It's nice to build a bit more belief off the back of what we're working on, yeah, and sort of take that, I guess you take that break as an opportunity to put 2 really good weeks together. And for us to come out and nail that was really pleasing. Now we've got to do it again. And so that is the AFL at the moment. It's such a tough, tight season. I think it's so balanced at the moment that every game is tough, but this week we run into a team that probably sat first half of the year a little bit similar to us. They weren't quite getting the results that we know they should be. Well, they've been able to get back to their best, so we're going to go and play against probably one of the best teams in the comp at this point on their home deck, so a big challenge.
Do you reward, I guess, the people who got the job done against GWS this week against Brisbane, and do you look at bringing some guys who perform well at Sandfield and reward that effort as well? Yeah,
there's definitely a part of it that we and we openly speak about it. If a team's able to get the job done, it's 23 players that have an impact in that game. Well, they've done something right, and occasionally we can look at who hasn't had much impact on the game and. You've got to make a change here. But that's not the case. Sometimes not every player can come off the ground and have 30 possessions. It just doesn't work that way. So there are important roles that are played that may not look like they've impacted the game when you look at statistics and kicks and marks and handballs, but they've done a fantastic job in other areas. So we'll have a look at this week closely. Unfortunately, we're going to lose Will Hamill, which is one that we were hoping didn't go that way. He injured his hand during the game last weekend. And so the results of that have been, unfortunately, not as good as we thought. So he'll go in for surgery today. So he'll miss 3 or 4 weeks with that. It's a cracked finger. So that creates an opportunity for us to make one change, or an opportunity for someone else. Unfortunately, Will was going so well. He's found his groove this year, really sort of made that spot his own, and so a bit of a setback for him, but an opportunity for someone else.
With that all that in mind, how much do you weigh up, I guess, want to get Riley Philthorpe back in the AFL side, but keep letting him build in the Sandfield?
Yeah, the balance is there. We'd love to get Riley back at AFL level, but we don't want to rush that either. We want to back in a team that's performed. So we've still got a training session to get through, and we haven't locked in that decision as yet, but we'll make the right decision in that space, both for Riley and for his development and what we think he needs, as well as for the team.
Are you leaning towards then giving him that extra week in the sample?
Yes, probably at this point, leaning that way, but at the same time, training sessions are really important for us, like watching how guys move, looking at how we've come off the back of last week. There's still a few balls up in the air when it comes to selection, and Riley's one of those. We like the way the team performed last week, but Riley's he is knocking on the door, and we do want to get him back in at a point.
I was just going to say, does the size of the test factor into that? You say it's arguably the toughest in footy right now. If you send someone there and they're not quite ready, is there that risk sometimes you can damage confidence?
Yeah, but it's probably not factoring into our decision this week. No, when Riley's ready, when the team's ready, it'll be the right time. We'll make that decision now. Maybe this week. We haven't locked that away yet. We've still got a little bit to get through.
When you attack a game like this and against the Lions, who, as you say, can blow you apart pretty quickly, you obviously want to play your game style, but also you want to limit them. So how do you approach a game like this and winning attack the game on, but also that attack can also bring you undone and get them scoring the other way pretty quickly?
Yeah, the balance again. The balance of playing against a strong side right across the board. There's no weaknesses in Brisbane's team. And they will punish you if you make mistakes. As I mentioned before, the competition's that close that we're playing a very good side this week, but there's no weeks that you don't. If you get it wrong, and you're going to lose games of footy. That's our challenge. We've got eight weeks to go. We want to bring that momentum from last week and that belief in the way we play, and if we're good enough, we can take it up to Brisbane.
Nixie O'Brien's one player who came back in last week. What did you think of his performance back at the AFL level, and has he done enough to secure that spot?
Yeah, he'll play this week. I mean, I thought he started us off last week, a couple of crucial second efforts, not necessarily in around just the hit-outs or what he did around the ground, but it was the combination of both. I thought his effort, second, third efforts were back where we'd seen from Rob when he was at his best. And so that was really pleasing for us, and we'll expect that from him now, week in, week out. I thought he impacted around the ground as well. There were times where he was able to get in and intercept mark. There were times where he took some strong marks around the ground. So that was a pleasing result for us. And it's a really important position that starts the game whenever there's pressure on. We get momentum against. Our ruckman's so important to us in those centre bounces because, we can't now set up numbers behind the ball like you used to do back in the day. It's the biggest challenge at the moment to change momentum, and Rob's a big part of that.
Get Will Hummel out. Do you look towards someone like a Brody Smith who played pretty well in Stanford last week, and obviously Dan Curtin who's been sort of knocking on the door all year? Yeah,
as I mentioned, it's one player's disappointment's opportunity for others, and you mentioned two like Dan Curtin. We've also got Bondi back there who's playing some great footy. Brody Smith was one of the best on the ground on the weekend. There's no doubt about that, and he's done everything we've asked, Brody. He's gone back and performed the way we've asked him to. We've challenged him with that. But those guys are all putting their hand up for that spot, and we'll have a look at that today during the session.
Where's Brody at, do you think, Nick? It sounds like he's sort of locked in contractually already from a trigger point of view for next year, but do you think he's got a year or two left to give it at that top level?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, I think he's... I've been really pleased. The challenge we put to him over the last month, he's been outstanding in that. He's gone back. He was a big part of the reason that the boys played such a strong game on the weekend against Glenelg. His leadership, his experience back there. But there were key moments in that game that, people will be looking at the stats and how he impacted the game. We saw some key moments in that game where he ran back in with the flight of the ball and put his body on the line, and he closed exits a number of times, which I know that's footy terminology, I apologise, but he did some stuff that will be rewarded within but might not be recognised from outside. He's a big part of our future. He's a big part of where we're at as a footy club as it is, for the service he's given, and there's more to come.
How do you look, I guess, you say he's still part of the future, but I guess look at maybe, the guys who are going to be more part of the future, longer down the track. I mean, do you kind of weigh that up now, second half of the season, saying, Brody's played 250 odd games, do we want to get more games into, a Dan Curtin or somebody like that down there with Will out now? Yeah,
so our open and honest conversation with Brody and with, let's use Dan as an example, is if those guys have got the same form coming in and we believe they're both going to impact the game the same way at AFL level, well, it's more than likely we're going to play a younger player that's going to have more of an impact into the future. But if Brody's form's stronger, we'll bring him in. We play every game to win the game of footy. And so that's how we go about it, pretty simply put. There's no grey in it. Our players are comfortable with that. They know if they've got to improve their game. They know if they want to knock on the door that they want to be in some good form. And now Brody's smashing the door down at the moment. So we'll have to make a decision in the next 24 hours, but it'll be one we'll wait for the session to play out first and foremost.
In terms of youth, you fielded your youngest team in the competition at the weekend. It's sort of been trending that way the past few weeks. Do you sort of have to temper expectations, not in terms of overall season results, but what you expect from these players and this group? And it's almost like a temporary rebuild for the rest of the season, getting these games into these guys, and it's almost been one step forward to hopefully take 2 steps back.
It's a good question. We're young. We have been all year. There's a lot of commentary around play the young players. There's not many. I think I mentioned it last week. There's not many left. With respect for those guys, we have others ready to go. I mean, I mentioned Bond before. He's been massive. And his game just keeps getting better and better. And if the opportunity shows itself, we'll make that call. But we're going to be a young side throughout the next 8 weeks. We're looking for consistency of performance. We know we can beat anyone. We also know that if we don't get it right, that we're not going to get the result. But we'll continue to play the team we think's the best team. this week will be an interesting one. You know, who do we bring in with that opportunity in the halfback position? Do we bring Riley in? Does that make us, you know, even younger again? So we're not really picking the team around age. We're picking the team around form and what we think will get the job done on the weekend. But we're going to be young throughout the back half of the year.
Pretty unconventional debut for Zach Taylor in terms of, you know, can he quickly get his family over and then he's the sub. Does sentiment sort of mean you have to give him another run this week, or is there no room for that?
We don't have to give him another run this week, but we will. We'd love to. We'd like to. You know, he deserved the opportunity, be it was a late call-up. Probably wasn't quite as late as what you guys got notice of it. But yeah, I thought he came on and I thought he had an impact, and he showed, you know, some of the exciting stuff that he does have, especially with that ball in hand he can do. But what we saw, again, behind the scenes was some really strong work, be it over a quarter of footy, when he didn't have the footy. And that's been his little bit of a work on. But I think he's going to be an exciting player for us going forward. We'd love to give him another chance, and you know, whether that's in a sub role again will be something that we'll have to have a look at. But yeah, it was a really exciting thing for the footy club to see him come in last week.
Do you think Racing gets more attention now? I guess they didn't get a tag, or really didn't get a tag against DWS. Do you think now, the form he's in, he now has to, you know, get ready for that kind of tag?
I think he gets a fair bit of attention. I don't think it's a lack of attention. I just think Isaac's got, you know, some weapons that are pretty hard to stop, and we'll be prepared for that if he does. He deserves it at the moment. I think he's impacting games of footy. I thought, especially the first half on the weekend, he was the difference through that first half. Yeah, so we'll continue to play him the way we feel is best for our team. Give him a certain amount of freedom to show what he's got, and we'll see what Brizzy do this week.
In terms of Curtin, he got, you know, those early couple of looks in the season, and now it's been a little while for him in the sample. Would that be frustrating for him, or is it almost like you dangle a carrot in front of those young guys and go, this is what it was like for you to get back here, though you've got to lift your level?
Yeah, for Dan, it's you know, it's a first year player that's working through his game, and he has some real strengths to his game, which is why, you know, we picked him where we did in the draft. We're working on a couple of other areas. He's going to play a few different roles across this first 12 months. You know, whether that's behind the ball, we'll look at on ball at a point, which he's played, you know, as a junior as well. He's unique in that space because he's a big lad, but he does have some really good touch. We're going to give him a chance to do that, as I mentioned, over the coming weeks. Whether that is, you know, get him on ball at some stage, give him a chance to really compete inside. But I wouldn't say he's frustrated. He's a student of the game. He comes in and sits with me regularly and talks through his game. You know, he wants to be better, and he wants to get there quickly, which is a normal thing you get from top 10 draft picks, and that's what we love about the way he goes about it. So I got no doubt he's going to be a super player in the game. It's just not being too rushed from everyone else. He's not in a rush. He's got patience. I think we saw the same thing from Riley Thilthorpe, and you know, in his first year or two, where it was, especially as some of these, you know, these slightly larger lads, it takes them a little bit longer to settle in when you're playing a key position role. So that's where we'll give him a different opportunity in different spots.
And do you see him developing into that Dawson-like player then as well? Obviously that on-ball experience, but can really play.
Yeah, gee, well, we hope so. I mean, Dawson's been a really positive one for us, but yeah, he'll work with guys like Dawson over the, you know, the coming 6 to 12 months. As I mentioned, we'll try him in a number of different positions, and we'll work through that and make sure he's comfortable what's best for him and what's best for the team.
You talk about those young key position players. How much do you think the club learned from the Fisher Mackesy experience? Someone who came in, played a heap of footy in his first year, and then maybe his confidence was sort of shot as a result of that.
Yeah, we're always learning from, and everyone's different. Every player's different with the way they go about it. You know, we've got you bring in some high draft picks who are just ready to go right from the start. So we'll just continue to work through that, trying to get that space right.
Obviously, you guys had a draw last time against Brisbane. Do you take anything you learned from that game up to the Gabba this weekend? Yeah, we've already looked through a fair bit of that. Yeah, what we did well and maybe where we missed it earlier in that game, it was a game of two halves. We felt like we got it right in the second half. Now Brisbane, you know, at the moment are in a lot stronger form than they were at that point. So the challenge is going to be bigger, but yeah, we took a fair bit out of that game.